The channel is currently demonetized, and this is the final step in moving to Portugal. Me and the family have got our residency, so now we need to finish it off by moving our accounts to Portugal. This does mean for the next little while the channel will be demonetized. There's nothing we can do about it. This is between YouTube and governments and bullshit and all of that. Anyways, Terran Embassy Complaints Department, written by Majestic Teach, 6677. I wanted to run late for work. But the unwritten rule was that if you show up late for your shift at the complaints desk, you'll be assigned to the complaints desk for a week. I'd made that mistake once, and I was determined to never make it again. One shift every 2 weeks was more than enough for any of us before we'd start considering stabbing our eyeballs out with a dull pencil. I set the coffee machine to fill my travel mug while I threw on a pair of pants and bound my grey Terran Embassy uniform shirt, complete with my oversized name tag. I flipped through the news on my data pad and checked messages, taking my time to try and keep my mind off the upcoming train wreck that is the Terran Embassy Complaints Department. And not procrastinating, I thought to myself as I made sure I had my ID card and double-checked my belt pouch of necessities. Everything in order. I steeled myself for the day. Coffee in one hand and Marbarquois meal replacement paste in the other, I stepped out of my apartment and headed for the elevator. Luckily, the monorail station was just around the corner, and it took me less than a minute at a brisk walk to step up onto the platform. At least something in the universe seemed to be looking out for me as I waited less than 30 seconds before the next transport arrived. One monorail ride and a surprising lack of other passengers followed by a brisk walk, and I was walking through the embassy back employee entrance and heading to the break room. It was 8:44 a.m. on the clock, just enough time to participate in the complaints department pre-game ritual. Step 1, refill coffee. Step 2, gather in a circle in the corner of the break room and politely chat about meaningless crap to keep your mind off the impending doom. Step 3. The moment the clock hits 8:58, march as one complete unit to the operations area and take a seat at the desk behind a wall of glass. Step 4. Press the opener and get swarmed by unhappy Xenos for the rest of the day. The lobby for the visiting Xenos was straight from the proper human government office. A series of benches covered in fabric in tones of orange and brown, cheap tile carpet in dark brown, and the required take-a-number dispenser by the door. There were 10 of us working the complaints department today, and the system informed me that there were already 35 numbers pulled. I flipped my sign on, and the system informed me that I would be serving Xeno with the ticket number 87, because like every government number dispenser, it never resets to 1 in the morning. "Number 87, I called out. "Yes, I have a problem," a shrill voice called out, and I was approached by a small bipedal being, with more arms and a head that reminded me of a praying mantis. "How can I be of assistance?" I asked politely. "I ordered a set of standard bolts from your human megacorp Bolt Co., and they sent me this junk," they exclaimed with clear frustration. The being pulled a bolt out of the box in their lower arms and slapped it against the glass to give me a clear view of it. It looked like a bolt. "The size and the thread is all wrong." "I see. Do you have the listing for the items you purchased?" I inquired with a polite smile. I looked at the Gullnet listing from Boltco, and it proudly declared Standard Bolt Variety Pack, 25,000 units in 5 of the most used sizes, produced to Terran 1374.2 specifications, equivalent to Galactic VXE.37. Of course, no actual sizes of the bolts, or an explanation if the bolts were Earth standard sizes, or galactic standard size, or metric. "Have they made any offers to correct the situation?" I asked blandly. "They offered to refund and pay for the return shipping, but that's not the point," the being screamed out. "Why the hell can't you humans make normal standard bolts like the rest of the galaxy?" And that's how my morning at the Terran Embassy Complaints Department began. I created a polite email to the customer service department at Boltco to ask them to update their sales listing on standard anything to include sizes and thread information to prevent further confusion, while I spent the next 10 minutes smiling, nodding, apologizing, and assuring the angry little twerp we would take this matter seriously. They finally took the bolt they had been waving around, threw it angrily into a box of the offending bolts they had bought, and stormed out. Hopefully, my first satisfied customer of the day. "Number 103, I called out and hoped the next complaint would be more reasonable and less inducing of a headache. A species I had never seen before scampered up to my desk. It looked like some sort of crab centaur, but only about a foot wide and about 6 feet tall and with the head of a shrimp.
"These both say pickles, but these pickles aren't like these pickles,"
the sapient said, shaking a jar full of pickles in one claw and an empty one in the other. At first glance, all I could tell is that they were different brands, and the full jar did not meet this individual satisfaction. "I'm sorry, but I don't know which stalls stock that brand," I responded with a smile.
"But I need to find more pickles like this,"
the thing screamed out as it thrust the empty pickle jar into the glass window, separating us so hard that it shattered. I quietly pressed the medical and security alert buttons and did my best to engage and calm the person.
"I can see that we need to find more of these pickles," I declared. "Can you please hold up the label on the broken jar? I need to look up in my system which local stores can order more for you and which currently have them in stock."
Excitedly, the creature dug through the glass and held up the label for me to read.
"Oh, that's a great brand. You have excellent taste," I said, hoping to keep the sapient calm and reasonable until help arrived.
Truthfully, I'd never heard of Auntie May's garlic dill crunchers, but it seemed best to follow the classic smile, nod, and agree methodology of awkward situation survival.
Yes, these pickles are amazing,"
was the only response as their eyes remained uncomfortably fixed, staring at me. Every other Xeno in the lobby was also staring at us in rapt attention, many visibly upset by what was happening, but none willing to leave and risk losing their place in line. Thankfully, help arrived a moment later. A Marine entered the lobby holding a stunner, but the EMT following close behind him casually put his hand on the weapon to lower it. He then proceeded to walk over to the agitated being at my station.
"Hello, my friend,"
the EMT called out, and the crab centaur whipped around to stare at him.
"I'm so excited to meet someone with a love of pickles.
I love them too."
"Yes, pickles are good. Pickles are love,"
the Xeno responded with both exhilaration and extreme agitation. "I actually have some special pickles in the back. Would you like to try some while that lovely lady looks up where you can buy more pickles?" he asked.
"Special pickles, yes,"
the being exclaimed, as it seemed to start shaking up and down in excitement. "If you don't mind, I'd like to hook you up to the medbot when you get into the back," he said, and the centaur thing stiffened for a moment until the EMT continued. "I'd like to be able to measure which pickles make you the happiest, so that we can get you the best pickles."
"Oh yes, scientific proof of the best pickles for me. Let's go,"
the crab centaur called out, and eagerly followed the EMT, who was doing his best to describe every type of pickle he could think of, from gherkins to half-sour, spicy, and everything in between. They left with a surprising calm given the earlier outburst. The Marine followed them a few steps behind, with the stunner still in hand, and kept a wary eye on the crab centaur. And with that, as quickly as the incident started, it was over and people returned to the business of being twerps with axes to grind with humanity. I took a break as a custodian came in to clean up the broken glass and mess at my station, unsure what the heck had just happened and why the crab centaur had such a thing for pickles. I would later learn that the difference between the pickle jars is that the first jar was a lacto-fermented pickle direct from Earth made in an old-school salt brine, while the second jar was a standard and much more common vinegar pickle. The crab centaur person was a Jarvikian, and they had a stomach that was very sensitive to Terran bacteria. Bacteria in lacto-fermented products produces an immense pleasure reaction in their kind, making certain products such as those pickles an unexpected form of crack cocaine for them. As a result, pickles, kimchi, yogurt, and any product made using lacto-fermented or related bacteria are all now listed as galactic narcotics and require controlled substance license to distribute outside Terran space. After 10 minutes in the hall to take some deep breaths and clear my mind, I returned to my duty station and steeled myself for the next customer.
"Number 114, I called out. "Yes, a human gave my podmate methane poisoning, causing him to crash into another shuttle," the Varaxian declared. "And now the insurance company won't pay."
I blinked in surprise. "Methane poisoning?" I blurted out in shock. I didn't like the direction this was going, and hoped it was some sort of strange industrial accident.
"Isn't exactly so," she continued, as I now noticed the Varaxian had a deep green stripe on their shell, indicating female. "We hired a human to act as co-pilot, and he never disclosed that your species' digestive system emits methane. While flying, the human emitted gas unexpectedly, which gave my podmate methane poisoning, causing them to crash the shuttle into a neighboring vessel. The insurance company for your human pilot is refusing to pay for obvious damages resulting from your human failing to declare that they are a walking biological hazard."
It was clear something about the situation was off, so I did a quick search in the Galnet database for information about the Voraxians and methane. Strangely enough, it is known that methane can be a heavy intoxicant for them, but none of the sites clarified the amounts. "Please give me a moment to query our medical staff," I told the agitated sapient. "I see a note in our system that your species is sensitive to methane, and I'd like to get further information so I can better understand what happened." The Voraxian fluttered her wings, which I knew was their equivalent for an annoyed huff.
"Fine, but please be quick about it."
I sent a query to the medical team, and the subject line, "Yes, this is serious. Please respond appropriately." A few minutes later, I got a message back from Dr. Ben Sharp, head of our medical team. It was an audio file, so I pressed play and listened through my headset.
"In my professional opinion, to reach sufficient levels of toxicity for the indicated species in an enclosed cockpit, the fart would need to be this long,"
Dr. Sharp's voice said, and then I heard a looped fart sound that wouldn't stop. Looking at the playback bar, I noticed the audio file was over 20 minutes long. "What is it with farts that turns adult men into little boys?" I grumbled under my breath.
"Excuse me, did you say something?"
the Voraxian asked in an unnecessarily haughty tone. "My apologies. I indeed understand the importance of this problem," I responded in the most serious tone I could muster. "Would you like to make a formal statement on this matter? I'm happy to record an account which may be used in legal proceedings if you would like."
"Well then,"
the Voraxian responded with another huff of her wings,
"I suppose that's a place to start."
Internally, I smiled as I read the woman the formal legal warnings for making a statement, including perjury and all the good stuff in the fine print. The lobby was full, and too many of the Xenos I spotted looked like grumpy sorts, and this looked like it could become a 2-for-1 opportunity. At the embassy complaints desk, we strive to provide the best possible solution for our customers. I think it only fair to go the extra mile for this particular Voraxian and ensure the statement would be delivered to the appropriate insurance adjuster. She seemed in need of introduction to how our insurance companies handle insurance fraud, and I needed to avoid as many of the other complaints as possible by keeping the statement process as long as possible. Along with sending the audio file from Dr. Sharp, I felt compelled to ask all the most pertinent questions to assist the insurance company. "When you hired the human, were dietary requirements discussed? Did they express a liking for beans or cabbage?" I asked the Voraxian, who suddenly seemed excited I was taking such a keen interest in the matter. 45 minutes later, I had a complete statement from the Voraxian, including an admission that the human co-pilot was wearing a void suit as required by galactic flight regulations. A void suit which would have contained and processed anything expelled out the back end, including solids, liquids, and gases. I was almost sorry to see her go, as she thanked me for taking the matter seriously. The insurance company would not be kind. The rest of the day went far more as expected in the complaints department. Mostly nonsense or simple misunderstandings, and the vast majority of issues made you want to beat your head against the wall or take a shot of vodka to dull the pain. And yet, we had to remain polite and professional representatives of humanity. As a new kid on the block, we needed to make a good impression on our new galactic neighbors and take every concern seriously. At exactly 5 p.m., we all closed down our windows in unison and marched back to the break room for the daily post-complaints gathering and comparing notes. Today's libation was a strawberry daiquiri with the usual spread of chips and dips, although some wise-ass had also put out a plate of pickles. Between Pickle Centaur and the methane complaint, I had the most ridiculous customers of the day, yet my co-workers had a good few stories to share. Jane interviewed a pirate who had been assaulted by human children, short, bright-colored, covered in fur, and with a shocking resemblance to bipedal dinosaurs. This sentient race had an attraction factor for humans of all ages that was unreal. Usually, the conversation involves a lot of apologizing, explaining the connection between humans and all things fuzzy, and offering counseling services to help recover from the experience. Instead, this person wasn't seeking an apology or to register a complaint. They were asking where to go to find humans and get more free massages. The most fun for Gerald today was a Sherilyn who ordered a pie that caused some major digestive issues. After having sampled an apple pie, they ordered a different one from another vendor, a shepherd's pie. As their kind is largely vegetarian, the meatful pie didn't agree with them. It turned into the best sort of complaint, a Xena who had a tough experience with humanity, but wasn't angry and just wanted more information and an explanation. He was able to have a nearly 30-minute conversation with them about the types of pies and the extreme varieties of fillings from savory to sweet. The Sherilyn left excited to explore more human pies and understood what to ask for and to avoid for their dietary needs, but seemed most excited to also learn there were pie-adjacent foods like peach cobbler, and they planned to return another day for more suggestions and foods to explore. When he finished his story, more than a few of us suffered from rambling stomachs and dreams of pie, in my case pecan, with whipped cream. I was a little sad to learn I just had missed the Sherilyn who was number 151 on the day. I had taken care of number 152, a Zakanian who wanted to complain about humans trying to make small talk while in elevators, because evidently making polite conversation is deeply offensive, and humans need to stop doing it. Snacks gone, a surprising number of pickles missing, and daiquiris consumed, we said our goodbyes. There would be at least another 2 weeks before I'd be back in the complaint desk, and I looked forward to returning to regular duties, meeting new races, and trying to help chart humanity's path in the stars. In the meantime, after a tough day at work, I needed 3 things: a beer, something greasy to eat, and a slice of pie. And I knew exactly which bar offered all 3. I was off to that human bar. End of story. I'd greatly like to thank our Tier 5 channel members, Caspar Arnholtz, John Creighton, Manatharia, 050, Dragzoon WRE, and Elijah Silvercross. Thank you very much.